Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention, please. Welcome. Welcome to this evening, this all-candidates meeting that is being sponsored by the Saltair District Residents Association. My name is Kerry McIntyre. I am currently serving as president of the SDRA, and as such will be acting as moderator for tonight's gathering. Some housekeeping items just as we begin. For those who may not, I just need to remind everyone of the following, that there are washrooms. There's one immediately over here. There is a handicapped washroom farther down the hall, and then another universal washroom up the hallway the other way just before the stairs. And as a matter of normal safety things, do make sure you know where the fire exits are. Secondly, let me begin tonight's meeting with a word of deep appreciation for our two candidates who are running for election as Director of Area G, Saltair and the Islands, for the CVRD. Serving in public office it's always been demanding. It involves not only much sacrifice of time and energy on the part of the person serving, but also, inevitably, on their family. And choosing to run for public office is but the first step in that act of offering themselves for the sake of their community, for the well-being of Saltair. And in a day when there is often and sadly too little respect given to those who are ready to step forward to lead and serve, I would hope that as citizens of the Saltair area, we would be ready to express our appreciation and our commendation to both Jesse McClinton and Lynne Smith for their willingness to serve and their readiness to participate in tonight's forum. And so I'd ask you to give them a round of applause. Let me just explain the format for tonight's event, which has been worked out in full consultation with both candidates and with their agreement. And I have to say, I want to thank them personally for their excellent cooperation in shaping out the format for tonight's evening. I think Winston Churchill famously said that democracy is a terrible format of government, but it just happens to be the best we have. I won't say that tonight's format is the best that could be worked out, but we've tried, and it has been, as I say, with the agreement of both candidates. Both will be given a 5-minute opening statement in order to introduce themselves and speak of the reasons for their candidacy and to explain a bit about their platform. Before the evening began, the order of speaking was decided by a coin toss, and as I have reminded both of them, we will be holding them strictly to various time limits for each section of the evening. Following that initial presentation, there will be a series of 3 questions that have been given to the candidates ahead of time by the board of the SDRA. These questions were given to them and they will be asked to respond, keeping their answers within 3 minutes. Candidates will take turns speaking first and second to each question, just rotate back and forth. And then comes an opportunity for us to hear your questions, which have been put into the box. As you came in, as you had opportunity to write down a question, and if you did not get a chance to do so and now have that question in mind, there's still paper and pens over here at the table. Feel free to go and get one. I would ask you to just hang on to the question after you have written it out, and before the designated time for the box to be opened and the questions to be drawn, one of the board members, John, will circulate and make sure that any last questions are picked up and put in. And once all the questions have been collected, I will start to randomly pull them, present them to both candidates to answer, again rotating turns of responding first and second. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for the questions from the floor. And as agreed by them, there will be obviously no pre-sorting of questions. Even if the question drawn is a duplicate of one already posed, it will be read out and both candidates will be free to add any additional comments that they might have, again within a 2-minute limit. And as we agreed this evening, if it comes up a third time, 4th, 5th, 6th, I will read it, and then as they agree that it's been asked and answered, we will move on. We want as broad a range of questions as possible, rather than answering one 14 times. At 8:15, there will be a 5-minute closing presentation by each candidate, and whoever goes first in the opening will automatically speak second in the closing. I will offer closing words of appreciation to them and to you. And then you have about 20 minutes to mingle with them, and if you did not get a chance to ask a question, you may do so personally, directly to them. At 10 to 9, I will be trying to get people to move out of the hall because we need to have it emptied by 9 o'clock. And one other little housekeeping note at that, if there's anyone who would be willing to hang around and help move chairs afterwards, it would be most appreciated. And let me just, as we are about to begin the evening, let me just say I really hope that it will be marked with civility and respect for all. That this evening, we've really tried to find a format that we hoped would be helpful and informative as we look to elect a director for Area G. And with that, let me say the coin toss. Our opening speaker this evening is Lynne Smith. Lynne. Can you see? Do you need lights
It's a little dark, but that's okay. It's sunny Saltair, so if there's a little less light up here, it's shining all on you. You want, do I get?
There's that.
Great, perfect. So first I'd like to thank all of you for coming this evening. This is a special time for me to be able to stand in front of you and bring forward some of my platform, some of the things that I've accomplished for you as a community. I'd like to start by making a quote from Nelson Mandela. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. A bit about me. I have lived in Saltair as an adult for over 31 years. I have an accounting background, raised a family here, participated in the community and for the community from the day I arrived. My community volunteerism started in this building with volunteering to help in the classroom, hot dog day, pizza day, and chaperoning. And I won't tell you some of the details about the chaperoning with children that they can get up to. So also I've been involved in driving our children to basketball games, ball games, collecting the umpires so that the kids can actually have a ball game, going door to door to ensure that the community were aware that there was a 45-meter cell tower that was planned for Olson Road, standing up when it came to the loss of the manufactured home park as an affordable housing zoned area, founding member and chair of the Saltair Water Advisory Committee that became the liaison between the CVRD and the community. It was much needed to bring the community updates and information on the use of our taxation and projects. Just recently, I took on the organization of the Salt Easter event. My husband and I purchased the prizes, the crafts, the coffee, and the insurance, and financially sponsored the event. It was a huge success with many volunteers from the community participating. Our community is made up of so many volunteers participating within our community and volunteering outside of Saltair. Kudos to all of them. I see many of you in the audience today. So why am I running? There are many diverse CVRD projects in stream that will move from the current 4-year term into the next 4-year term. I have the knowledge, experience to provide a seamless move for the Area G community residents from one term to the next. Continuity. Some projects in stream for our community are the filtration system, distribution upgrades, Stocking Lake Dam replacements, Centennial Park revitalization, modernization of our local area plan and electoral area official community plan, 3-stream curbside collection, climate change adaptation, Saltair slope stability, and the list goes on. We may be a small community, but we have a lot going on. As a community, we have had an amazing 4 years with many successes during a pandemic. Let's start with the grant funding for our filtration system at $3.9 million. Other grant funding has been brought to the total grant funding for Area G Gulf Islands to approximately $5 million, a tax benefit of approximately $6,000 per parcel in Saltair. Capturing these grant funds for our community came with many challenges. Working with Island Health to have them place their water contravention order fines on hold until our filtration grant application was announced. Working with Island Health to restart our distribution upgrades. This year, Rumble Road has been completed. Ongoing work for Bazan, Gardner West, and Southern. Our tax dollars at work. The Centennial Park revitalization plan has bumped along slowly, and it is now possible to consider the funding of this plan. I know there are many in the community, and I just want to go over the Saltair Slope Stability Assessment report that came as a shock to all of us. I do not support the current draft bylaw 4427. We need to do more expansion looking at the next year and years to come as to how we are going to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And Jesse McClinton.
What is this? That's for that. Yeah. Second. Can we do this? We good? Hold on. Brought my own timer. I'm Jesse McClinton, and I'm running to be your next director. I first want to make a few thank yous and a few acknowledgements. First of all, I want to acknowledge my opponent, Lynn. Thank you for agreeing to debate with me this evening. I'd like to acknowledge Carrie and the rest of the SDRA for organizing this event tonight and all the hard work you guys have put in behind the scenes. There's a few other people that are really important to acknowledge. I'd like to acknowledge Tim and Jackie and the rest of the Saltair Community Board who have worked tirelessly over the last 6 years to get this building to be what it is today. And I think it's amazing that we all get to be in this room, and the purchase of this building and this lot and all the upgrades is less than $600,000, and our final payment on this purchase is going to be in 2023. So very cool. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge my parents. I got a little choked up there looking at them. You guys always support me in everything I do, including this, so thank you for being here. Obviously, last but not least, I'd like to acknowledge my wife, who's also my scrutineer this evening. Thank you for holding down the fort while I'm doing all my election stuff. Thank you. And lastly, thank you to all of you, whether you support me or don't, or you're undecided. It's great that we all get to be here and be involved in the democratic process. And especially when we look around the world in Ukraine and Russia, it's great that we all get to be in a room together and go through these things. So why am I running? If you would have asked me 6 months ago, I couldn't have told you very much about the CVRD or the director or what was going on. And that kind of all really changed one evening, as many of you, I'm sure, read about what was going on with the baseball league. It really made me sit up and ask, what the heck is going on? This league's been operating for over 40 years, and for some reason it wants to be shut down. Frankly, it made me angry. And the next day I reached out to a good friend of mine who I went to high school with. She's the president of the league, Amanda, I always want to say Charette, Amanda Redpath, and talked to her about what was going on. And that kind of led me down the rabbit hole in reaching out to other community leaders and what was going on. And frankly, it was really worrisome and disheartening what was going on to folks like Jackie and Tim in the early days and how they were being mistreated as they tried to get this community center up and running. What was going on, for people like Valor and her, trying to not petition, her to redo her property. Sorry, I'm missing the words there. And then other community leaders and what was happening to them. People that have been working in our community for 20 plus years and just being unceremoniously set aside. So that's really why I stepped up. I wanted to get involved and do my part. I grew up in Saltair. I am now an adult, and I remember this place as being a place where neighbors get along, where we say hi to each other, where we're friendly to each other, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. And that bothers me a lot. I have a young family. I have a son and a daughter, and that's why I'm running. I think Saltair and the community we live in is beautiful. I think it's safe, and I think it's worth doing something about. I think it's worth taking care of, and that's why I'm running. So who's Jesse? Well, I grew up on Thetis Island with my 3 younger brothers, my parents, Don and Kathy, who some of you might know. I went to St. Joe's. I took the ferry every day until I was 10. We moved over to Saltair, just across the street from here, and that's where I grew up. I went to Chemainus High, I went to Ladysmith High, and then I went to the University of Victoria and got a psychology degree in Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and I didn't want to ask, would you like fries with that? So I went overseas to grad school at the University of Wales and did a Master's of Science in Consumer Psychology. From there, I came back. I worked in my early days, in my 20s, as a counselor. I worked at the Ledger Hospital for Vancouver Island Health in a psychiatric hospital for kids. And then later in life, really got interested in business. I, for the last 5 years, I've been the CEO and the owner of Sticky Media, and that experience, I think, is what I'm going to bring to the table in Area G. I built a company. It was me and one other person when I started. I now have 20 employees, and I have 70 clients around all of North America. And I work with stakeholders and find solutions for difficult problems, and I think I can lean on that experience and bring that to Area G. So thank you.
Thank you both. As noted earlier, the SDRA prepared 3 questions for the candidates and gave it to them ahead of time. And so in the first question, and I will call upon you, Lynn, to answer first, and then Jesse. The question is, what is the best way to involve residents in the decision-making processes at the CVRD, and the best way to prioritize our needs with the board?
Thank you for that question. One of the things is what you're doing right now is attending meetings. There are many ways for residents to be involved in decision makings at the CVRD. Participating in CVRD surveys involve residents in the decision-making process. Over the past 4 years, there have been numerous surveys conducted by the CVRD that result in staff reports to the board directors that prioritize our community needs at the board. Saltair Centennial Park Revitalization Plan is the result of 3 separate surveys. Residents residents expressed their vision for the park, amenities, and an increase to taxation. Now we can move forward with this revitalization plan. Other examples are the filtration system, whether to join Ladysmith or to have our own standalone system. The community decided on the standalone system. The filtration loan authorization is another example of community decision. Budgets have been presented to the Area G residents yearly, looking for input. The modernization official community plan has included in-person open house in February 2020. We have had the pandemic, but the CVRD continued using virtual workbooks, online printed copies for the community circles and the policy workbooks. The Saltair Slope Stability Assessment Report and Draft Bylaw 4423, public meetings, community comments, concerns, etc., still being collected at the CVRD. There is more work to be undertaken at this time. We have had the 3-stream curbside collection, active transportation, transit, and the list goes on. Read the CVRD meeting agendas. They come out on Friday, all directors, and they're available to the public at the same time. This is a great opportunity to find something, circle it, pass it on to your director, your concerns, or if you want, you can send it in to the staff with a question or that, and also make sure you CC your director, and then they're in the loop. Also, there's a question period at the beginning of all the meetings that are held at the CVRD, whether they're community. And so what I'd like to do is stress people to get involved. Working as a community, we have been successful in moving forward with consensus on our priorities, and that were set in the past. Now as a community, we can take our time to set new priorities, sit down together as a community, and chart a path building on our successes and explore new priorities.
Excuse me. So for me, this is the crux of what's been the issue in Area G for the last 4 years, and that is the lack of public consultation. So what do we do about it? The first thing I suggest, if I'm your director, call me. Maybe you've seen my campaign material, maybe you haven't, but at the bottom of all my campaign material is my phone number. Many people in here can attest that if you call me, I pick up. And if I don't pick up, I call you back within an hour. There are 2,500 people that live in Saltair, on Thetis Island, and on Penelakut. I truly believe that I can have a one-on-one conversation with all of you. So call me. I mean it. The second thing that I've committed to is having at least 4 community meetings every year. 2 in Saltair, 1 on Thetis, and 1 on Penelakut. I think it's vital that we get in a room and talk about the issues that are important to you. I also, as I mentioned, I run a digital marketing company. I have 20 employees, a little more than that now, and I have clients all around the world. We have several meetings every day, dozens of meetings a week. There's no reason if an important issue comes up, we can't all get online and have a virtual meeting. And for folks that can't do that, we can do hybrid. Come to where I'm hosting and we'll talk about the issues that are important. But most importantly, I think the biggest thing that we need to get back to is working groups. I have met dozens and dozens, hundreds of people that have a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge, more than me, and I want to involve those people in the decision-making process. The example of bylaw 4427 is a perfect example. I've met dozens of people, many with engineering degrees in geotechnical engineering. And it strikes me as odd, Lynn, and I would ask you, and disagree with your comment, that I would ask you why you haven't involved these people with this knowledge when on the first reading of bylaw 4427, you voted in the affirmative, and on April 20th, at minute 2 hour and 39, you moved emphatically to move the bill forward, the bylaw forward. So I would ask you, why haven't you involved these talented people in our community? Thank you.
The second question that was posed to the candidates is this: do you support maintaining the current rural zoning in Saltair? Or do you think we should change the zoning to allow greater housing density? Jesse, you're first.
Get my notes. Area G is one of the only areas that doesn't allow secondary suites. Thetis Island allows secondary suites as long as it's an acre or bigger. The ALR allows secondary suites. So the answer is yes, we need to rethink our zoning bylaws. But it's not about density. It's about supporting residents that live in Saltair and live in Area G. I've talked with many people. This is a very important issue to many people. Very important. It's one of the first things many people talk to me about. Older folks say to me that they'd like to age in place and have their younger kids come live with them and take care of them and enjoy their final days of their life. Younger families are looking for support with their mortgages and trying to make their life a little bit more affordable. And the funny thing is, we already allow secondary suites. They just have a breezeway or a warm wall. And so the way the zoning's set up just makes life more difficult and unenjoyable for the people that have secondary suites. I am always conscious of whether I'm listening to the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, and I've made it a conscious effort to ask other people that this is not a big issue for. And to a person, everyone has said they don't think it's a big deal as long as it's done appropriately and in the right way. We all want to see our community, maintain the spirit of our community and move forward in the right way. I want to also tell you about somebody that I've met as I've started to campaign. Her name's Val Irwin, and I mentioned her earlier. Val Irwin has a large property and a secondary suite on it, a cottage that's been there for a long time. And she applied for rezoning and a permit to renovate her suite. And twice, my opponent denied her the ability to rezone it. And she wanted to rezone it for her daughter with special needs so that her daughter had wheelchair access to the building and within it. This one size does not fit all. And I don't know how that story makes you feel, but I know how it makes me feel. So updating the zoning laws and supporting the needs of our community, absolutely, we need to look at those. Thank you.
This is not my decision. This is a decision for the residents and taxpayers in Saltair. However, I do recognize the hurdles to densification in Saltair at this time. Climate change is now part of our lives, and we are faced with atmospheric rivers and heat domes. Adding densification, we need to proceed very carefully. We have just received this year the Saltair slope stability. That is a very sensitive area. Increasing the densification, what will that do to those sensitive areas? So this will be a community decision in the future under the modernization. We make decisions as a community. We look at what the impact is. Are we looking for having a containment boundary? Where are we headed? These are your decisions, and you will be making them. They are not the director. And I think that we need to be looking at our public water system. We don't have a stormwater system. How will we get those in place to protect and move the water through our areas? We know we live on a slope. We've lived on a slope for a long time. So let's take the time to proceed cautiously. There is no question that we do not need to look at additional housing within our community. Secondary suites have worked well. If there's changes to be made, it will be made by the community and community decision.
And the third question, should the CVRD take a leadership role in fighting climate change, or should that issue be left to federal and provincial governments? Lynn.
Having worked at the CVRD for over 4 years representing this area, I would like to say that the CVRD is taking a leadership role at the local government level to fight climate change. I could read you pages and pages and pages of work that the staff has been directed to do by the board to ensure that we move through the climate crisis at a level that the experts are giving us information that can move us through this time. We make decisions in the past that you can see reflected with climate change. And I think it's really important that we look at right now. Yesterday, we at the board authorized a new initiative which will bring forward the adoption and changes that we will require, not just in Saltair, but for the whole CVRD. The CVRD has done climate projection and impact analysis, vulnerability and risk analysis, GHG mitigation strategies, adaptation strategy work plan is where we're currently at. If you want to go on the website, you can go to the 31st of August and look at the Committee of the Whole, and you will see the best part is watching the presentation that has been put forward. We have this 3-stream curbside collection to help reduce the waste. We have retrofits for the CVRD buildings to create a smaller carbon footprint. There's programs for heat pump rebates, wood stove rebates, toilet replacement. We have solid waste, the solid waste facility drop off for recycle items and other materials that we're trying to keep out of the environment. How many people dump stuff in our forested area? We have the yard waste program that cuts down on the backyard burning. Even the electoral area draft bylaw 4373 includes a section on mitigation and adaptation to climate crisis. We are at the CVRD thankful for the talented staff that will lead our communities forward.
So there's something I would agree with my opponent on, that the CVRD is taking a leadership role. I'll get to that in a moment. But yes, absolutely, we have to take a leadership role. We don't have a choice. This is something I'm extremely passionate about, and frankly, it keeps me up at night. You know, my future, my children's future, you know, I wonder what our world is going to be like. You know, and like many of you, perhaps like some of you, I'm thinking about possible breakthroughs in green hydrogen or energy storage for our green technologies like solar and wind, but they're just not there yet. And we don't have the luxury of waiting. So I would argue that the CVRD is taking a leadership role, but Area G is not. So I've come up with 4 practical solutions that I think we can take tomorrow that are not only going to be good for the environment, but actually make our lives a little bit better. The first idea, solution, is walking and biking. Let's make our communities more walkable. Let's make them easier to bike in. I'll finish off. I've run 14 marathons, and I trained for most of them running on Old Chemainus Road. The road is not the same. It's changed in the last 20 years. Let's make it safe to walk from here to the Canco, to our neighbor's place. That's the first solution. The second solution is transit. We are one of the only areas in Area G that does not have a bus that comes through it. I think it's a little bit crazy. Sorry, that's the wrong word to use, but this isn't just about us. I was on Thetis and Penellicut last weekend, and I was talking to families, and they send their kids on the ferry to go to dance or clubs, and they can take a bus to Duncan, but they can't get to Ladysmith. That seems really odd to me, and the director has direct control over that. The third thing is green bins. We don't have them, so I don't know where that comment came from. And I know many people in Saltair like to compost for the gardens, but lots of people don't. And one of the things we know is when you put organic material into landfills in an anaerobic state, it creates methane. And methane is 80 times more potent than CO2. So this is something that we should look at right away. And a big idea that's a little bit out there that I'd like to put a working group together for is hydro. I know of a community in McBride where my dad grew up. Is that the end? Yeah. Nope, 30 seconds. Good. Lots of time. Where they have a dam and a creek, just like Stocking Creek, and they have 2 turbines there. It was very expensive, but within 5 years it was paid back, and then putting energy back into the grid. These are some ideas that I think I can help, with your help, take a leadership role on. Thank you.
I would ask John if you would be so kind just to run around or walk around, and if there are any other written questions that need to be gathered up, we'll get them into the box right away.
As long as she can read them. Oh, sorry, say that again. I'm just going to have them on. Well, as long as she can see it. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. You tell her what you need.
And then read it off. If you want to check that I've read the question properly, I'm happy to do one thing is after they've been read, I can put them down in order. Within the next week or so. As you know, there is a referendum question that is part of the election processes here, and if people would like to have an information night on recreation funding, the SDRA would work diligently to try to put that together if there is adequate interest. So
yes, please.
it's hands up if there isn't. Okay, we'll see what we can do. Thank you. I feel just like being at the Oscars and the order of question, or the order of response will just continue in the format, so Jesse will answer and then you, Lynn. The question is, do you believe that there are properties along the shoreline I think this means such as Porter Creek and Lagoon Ridge Lagoon Bridge that are more likely to slide than others. Should everyone be put into the same category? So this is obviously relating to the slope issue. Are you comfortable with that question?
I think so. 2 minutes. I think I know how many people here feel about this. We had a community meeting just a couple weeks ago with 130 people that came out. Yeah, I don't think anybody is arguing for unsafe shorelines. We have a strong bylaw in place that protects the shoreline. Certainly, there's some areas that are more at risk than other areas along our shorelines and even up from our shorelines. I think the big issue is the Stantec report itself specified on the very back page that that report should not be used to create any bylaw. And that's indeed what happened. It seems very unfair that of all the recommendations, the only thing enacted is a bylaw that restricts residents and property owners from what they can do with their property. There's over 70 properties in the area that are going to be affected. The families in those areas that are going to be, hamstrung from doing the things they want to do. So certainly there may be more areas, but let's get a sober second opinion. Let's do some core drilling. Let's figure out what's really going on. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to bring your attention to a committee of the whole meeting that was on the 23rd of March in 2022 regarding the Saltair Coastal Slope Stability Assessment. Part of the recommended resolution was expansion of the coastal slope stability assessment to other areas in the region with similar geomorphic characteristics, including portions of North Cowichan, Cowichan Bay, Mill Bay, in order to identify risks to communities and infrastructure. Now listen carefully to the next two. More detailed subsurface geotechnical investigation of the Saltair study area to better refine the recommended setback area. And the next one is a review of stormwater discharges within the Saltair study area and development of a stormwater management plan. I voted yes for that. The board voted yes. So we will be having additional studies. This is not the end. We are not in a hurry as a community to move forward until we are satisfied that we sit in a position of strength as a community all together.
I'd hoped that this didn't come. This is a question directed to you, Lynn. And one of the requirements that we said to everybody is please write questions that are directed to both candidates. Jesse, I hope you feel that you are going to be able to respond as well.
I think so.
Okay, Lynn, here's the question, and it's somewhat on the same topic we've just been discussing. In your April 20th, 2022 directors meeting, you moved and seconded bylaw 4427. How can you support this bylaw when Stantec indicates there is not sufficient work done to support a bylaw?
Sure. Procedures at the CVRD require some actions to be taken to ensure that documents come to a community. If you do not want to see them, then that's different. But as the director of the area, I want to ensure that the community saw the reports and all the documents involved, and had community meetings. One was virtual. The other 2 meetings were on the same day with the geoscientist, technologist, the geotech engineer who was involved in the report. These have been brought to the community through direction and support from me as the director. It's very important that all of this comes to the community and nothing is hidden. This is your opportunity to actually dig in and look at these documents. Read them, and if you need questions asked, there's opportunities to question them. Thank you.
So I would like to just share with you, leading up to this and the potential of having this position, I've spoken with many people from the CVRD and staff and past directors. And I asked at the second meeting, I had to leave early at the first meeting, I asked at the second meeting, why Saltair? Why not Ladysmith? Why not Chemainus? Why are we safe once we cross Dogwood? And nobody could give me an answer. I finally met with the gentleman who I'm just gonna leave his name out of it, but he was able to explain things to me. And he said the reason why it's only Saltair, first, the CVRD was given a bunch of money by the provincial government to assess what was going on in our area. From there, they identified 2 regions, specifically Saltair and Yubo. The reasons why they didn't look in Ladysmith or Saltair is because the CVRD is not responsible for land use in those areas. They're only responsible for Saltair. So that's why it went forward. And I asked you at the meeting, why Saltair? And you weren't able to give me an answer then. I think this goes back to my very first point that public consultation is key. The second reading has happened. You had already moved it emphatically. I watched you on video just last night, and there was no consultation, no input, and people were shocked to hear how they were going to be impacted. I live right across the street on Saltair, South Oyster School Road. My property is in the setback. My parents' property is in the setback. That's 400 meters from the ocean. Surely this needs a second look. And more importantly, the big issue is stormwater management. Why, out of this bylaw, is it only the bylaw? Why is there no other mitigation for what is happening to properties downstream? Thank you.
I think we've covered this territory. The question is, will you vote for or against the landslide slope hazard bylaw? I would suggest we've had this question asked and answered. Do you want another shot at it? Do you want another shot at it? Sure. And then I will rule that that's the last of the slope hazard questions that we're going to deal with tonight.
I do not support the current draft bylaw 4427. I would not vote to move it forward at this time, and if Jesse continues to make rude gestures, that's inappropriate behavior. We as a community need to make sure that we have had our say and our decisions made. We need stormwater plans. That's what we talked about. That's what we voted on in March as a board. We included additional investigation. So I think that the bylaw needs to be put on hold. There needs to be more information, more investigation. And only as the community works through all of that, we will move forward in the direction that is needed. The bylaw is there from part of the Local Government Act, that it is for the protection and the well-being of the residents. But we need to make sure that that's exactly what it's for and exactly the locations that it should be in place.
I'm going to take my 2 minutes just to talk about something else, because I think I've made my points. If I have been emphatic and a little overt, it's because I care. I care about our community, I care about what's happening to you, I care about the residents that live in our community. Again, this is where we're going to raise...
Could you speak to the question?
Speak to the question? All right, I can speak to the question. You know what? I yield my time. Thank you.
Are you voting yes or no to the recreation referendum? So Jesse, you get to vote on that.
I thought this one might come up. I don't have any notes, but I think I know what I want to say. I'm voting no. And it's tough to say that, because I think that having facilities for healthy living is extremely important. But if the referendum passes, it's going to mean $1.19 per $1,000 of assessed value in increased taxes. For an average home, that's roughly $800 to $1,000. Currently, we pay about $30 per year in taxes for the Saltair, Centennial, and for Frank Jameson. Now, I think my opponent will say that she had no choice, but I would argue that our previous director, who sat in her position for 12 years, was able to make a coalition and make sure that this referendum didn't come forward. This, along with bylaw 4427, is going to mean one of the largest increases in taxes or money you have to give to the CVRD that's ever happened for Saltair. Again, I think that healthy living is really important, but I would argue that we're paying for tax. If this goes through, we'll be paying for things that were decided without our say and that we have no direct control over. We're going to be losing our control over what we do for our community. So I will be voting no. If this is to pass, this will be one of the things that I try to work on your behalf moving forward. Thank you.
I have spent, I don't know how many years, digging and looking for information regarding regional recreation. There was a study done in 2011. It's been hidden. Nobody sees it. Oh, the past director saw it, and he sat as the chair on the Regional Recreation Committee that moved forward with these 9 significant facilities. They aren't significant to me. I don't want to drive all the way with the gas prices to Shawnigan Lake Community Center. I'm not sure who in Saltair has actually done that. That's why the data collection has been inappropriately done. You read the documents, and I suggest you actually sit down and read those documents and see what the consultants said. They said there was issues with the hockey, there was issues with this, there was issues with other things, and yet they moved forward. If you go back to the meetings, you will find opposed Director Smith. And if you think that I haven't looked at the data and tried to figure out how we have been dragged this far down a rabbit hole when we actually only use 2 of those 9 facilities? What happened to sub-regional? Sub-regional would suit us. We pay for Frank Jameson, and yes, we don't pay enough for Frank Jameson for our use, but there's so many people that don't even live in the CVRD that use Frank Jameson. The people from our area, most of the time, don't even have space to go and use the facility. There is something the matter with the model that has been brought to us, and we need to say no, come back to us with a better solution.
We asked for 1 question per person. I've got 2 here, and I'm only going to ask the first one, though I'm not sure about the appropriateness of it. Well, just a minute. I'm going to ask you.
What, sir? Just read the first one. I'm happy to answer. I don't know why that.
I'm fine with that.
So the question is, do either of these candidates have a criminal record? Lynn, I think you get to answer that first.
Well, that's an easy one, and it's not going to take 2 minutes to say no.
The answer is no, and no, but I think that deserves a little bit more discussion about why I think that question was put forward. Somebody probably tried to do a little bit of research on me, and previously in my early 20s, I was pulled over for a roadside suspension. It was said that I had a drinking driving incident. I was 26 at the time, but that is not the case. I do not have a criminal record, and I would say that trying to get a gotcha like that probably looks a little shallow and a little, yeah. Anyways, I'll leave it at that.
This is a very short one. Simplify zoning, yes or no? Are you content that you've both answered that one?
I think so.
No, I don't think that one.
Will you take that one again? Okay. Simplify zoning, question mark, yes or no?
So through modernization, zoning will be simplified. The CVRD strategic initiatives that it's working on, the modernization, the harmonization, has brought together a much less complicated zoning throughout the whole electoral areas. They will have zoning that, I think the last time we went through it was possibly 9 zones. So instead of having all these little octopus feeding going this way and that way, it will be much simpler at the CVRD. So when you go in to put an application in, it's simpler, it's much streamlined, and you will have your applications, if you're looking for an application, much quicker process, with 9 electoral areas being way more condensed, way more simple.
I would argue that the zoning is too simple. The answer is always no. I think that we have a diverse population, different people with different needs, and I think you guys deserve a director that's going to come meet you on your property, talk to you about your challenges, find a way forward. That's not what's been going on, and it's part of the reason why I'm running. It's really disheartening to hear the stories of what's been going on, and I think certainly. Is there bureaucracy at the CVRD? Absolutely. But it's the director's role to help you navigate those challenges and to advocate for you and to listen to you and the things that you're dealing with as community members and as residents. And so I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. I think that, you know, the common decency and listening to one another and listening to your neighbors, that's all a part of how we move forward together as a community. I truly believe that, and that's what I'd like to try to bring forward. Thank you.
The question, how will you help and support homeowners in the process of obtaining a development permit if the bylaw is passed? And I am presuming that is speaking about the slope bylaw. Are you content to respond to this? Or have we asked and answered?
Can I just read it again?
Sure.
It's a little vague.
How will you help and, how will you help and support homeowners in the process of obtaining a development permit if the bylaw is passed? That's what's written. I think
I'm fine either way.
I think we've dealt with this, but you're...
Yeah, well, it was someone's question and it was important for them.
I'll probably let Jesse speak, just to keep the rotation, or you can pass. You'll pass. Go ahead. Did you get
I'm happy to, well...
So thank you.
Well, I didn't want to pass if you were going to speak, so I'll speak to her if she wants to. Yeah.
Go first then. Keep our order.
Yeah.
Keep our order.
I mean, this bylaw cannot pass. Like the overreach of this bylaw is incredible, and what it's going to mean to new development and to development on your property. It's going to mean, you know, to put a deck onto your property is going to mean thousands of dollars in a geotechnical engineer if you're allowed to do it at all. Saltair has strong bylaws in place, and if we need to increase those bylaws and strengthen them, then okay, let's do it. Let's get in a room like this and talk about the implications. Nobody here is advocating for unsafe communities, but let's address the real issues. To a person, anybody that is on the water has said stormwater management is the issue. That is what is jeopardizing their property. And what I think I could bring to the table is my ability to create strong relationships. The area director has direct communication with the ministry manager, and that is one of the first things I'm going to do if I become the director. I'm going to talk with him and figure out what is a way to move forward with our stormwater management. On top of that, I've already spoken about the smart people in this room. Let's put a working group together. Let's identify the issues, and let's figure out how to get the water from the top to the bottom. Thank you.
Well, that's something we agree on, is that stormwater that's coming down from the mountain. It's coming from Ladysmith development through our properties and putting pressure. How will we solve that? We know that we'll have to open our wallets and we'll have to put in a stormwater system. That is where we're going to need to look at, we're going to have to investigate. But as for the navigation through the bylaw, the development permit area, that's why we have professional staff. Staff are the qualified people that will enable you to move through that process. As directors, we've been told, due to liability issues, we are not to meet people on their property. I do not agree with that. I find that that is definitely a drawback for us. We have had some legal issues at the CVRD due to directors showing up and having a discussion with a property owner, and then when it comes forward, it has a few twists in it that end up with us in court. So it's very important that staff is with you. I have appointments with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for regarding our stormwater, and I have an appointment regarding our dam infrastructure. Thank you.
The question reads, how will you make sure that your term will result in more openness and consultation with citizens, instead of decisions being made without any consultation?
Well, just don't have a term that's got a pandemic in it, because it definitely makes your time with your community limited. We would not be able to hold these kinds of open communications in a community hall and have discussions. Pandemic definitely curtailed my ability to actually meet with you and discuss things with you. Our community is not looking forward to technology in always the way that we have had to go with virtual meetings. So I think it's really important that now that we are moving through that period in our lives that we don't want to go back to, and sit down and have those discussions. Having community meetings that you don't even invite the director to doesn't help. They can't hear your voice. And when we're here today, I hear your voice. I read your questions. I'm standing up here and answering your questions. You have my email address. You have my phone number. It's in the Take 5 every month. It's posted on the Saltair News and Views. You can get a hold of me anytime. I mean, how many of you stop me as I'm on a walk or on my bike? I am always available. I work for you as a community. I'm your voice, but you have to give me your voice and what your concerns are so I can take it forward.
The CVRD is a unique body. It's unlike any other government body. And the director's role is even more unique. For our remote areas, there's one person that you get to talk to. One person that's going to listen to you and advocate on your behalf. Hopefully I've made that clear that that is at the heart of what I think needs to change. I personally feel like our relationships are under duress. The Saltair Community Center, it's really upsetting to hear the stories that people like Jackie and Tim have had to go through in these early days. It's upsetting to hear what my friend Amanda had to go through and what she had to do to present to the CVRD board to get a baseball league reinstated. Like, this shouldn't be that difficult. Bylaws that all we need to do is get together in a room and talk about them and hear from people that know more than me and know more than you. Address the issues that are most important. You know, for many folks, I've been hearing mostly the stormwater management is a huge issue. Ken, who I recently met, lives just before Dogwood. When they redid the trail, It changed the topography, and huge amounts of water came across his property with nowhere to go. 8 properties, and there was nowhere for the water to go. $150,000 worth of damage to his property. And what did they tell him? Who came to help him? Nobody. In his own words, they said, go pound sand. So, listen, I'm here to listen. I'm here to advocate. I don't know how many times I can say it, but thank you.
Just so everybody is aware, we've got about time for, I think, 2 more questions, unless we keep it really, really short. So. Okay. Why are the residents of Saltair being forced to go to an elementary school in Chemainus to exercise our right to vote when we have a perfect building right here?
Good question. I don't have the answer. We are the only area in the CVRD that doesn't get to vote in its own area. We've had voting for a federal election here. We've had voting for a provincial election here. We are all sitting in this building today. I am not sure what the reason is. I have spoken with Bob Harper, who's the Chief Electoral Officer. He is a wonderful person and wasn't able to give me an answer, so I'm only left to speculate, which I'm not going to do here in front of you guys today. This is a wonderful building, and again, I just want to again take an extra moment to thank Jackie, Tim, and the rest of the board who has taken care of this building and brought it to what it is today. I just want to say thank you.
Well, I agree with Jesse. I have no idea how the BC elections can have a building sitting here that we could almost all walk to or bike to, or if you had to drive, maybe. But we all should have been able to come to this building for an election. Why BC Elections has not designated this one under the local government, I do not know. And I have also asked Mr. Harper, and the same answer is he doesn't know. So is it a provincial decision? I don't know that either. But I'm disappointed that we weren't able to walk here, cycle here, or come whatever method of transportation here to our own community center.
We should have given instructions to write legibly here. Are you serious about a parking lot between North Watts and Green Hill, the railway right-of-way, and Chemainus Road? I'm presuming this has to do with the further development of the Trans-Canada Trail, but Lynn, if you would like to take a first shot at that.
So I know we'd all like to take ownership of the Cowichan Valley Trail that goes through Saltair and say that it belongs to us. It doesn't. It belongs to the whole CVRD. All the CVRD taxpayers from Mill Bay out to Honeymoon Bay up to North Oyster all fund the Cowichan Valley Trail that goes through Saltair. We are thankful for that trail. It creates active transportation. It keeps us healthy. As for the parking lot, this is a CVRD initiative under Parks and Trails. We have so many people parking in the ad hoc parking. They have created a dangerous environment for those that live on North Watts Road. They park, they turn around in people's driveways, they obstruct the vision for people trying to get from North Watts Road onto the Shemanis Road. The parking lot was designed and put in by the staff. This is their decision. They brought it forward to the board, and we know that we need to provide an opportunity for those to come that may live in Mill Bay and actually are paying for that trail also to have space to park. I know people on Sky Road don't appreciate having cars parked in front of their road to exit onto Shemanis Road. We've had a gentleman run over with a vehicle and helicopter ambulance out to Victoria. So the parking lot with a washroom will also stop some of the public disposal in our forest too.
The answer for people that don't want parking on Sky Road is not a 30-car parking lot for 2 buses on North Watts Road. You only need to talk to a couple people that live on North Watts Road that don't, and they will tell you they don't want 2 tour buses parked at their top of the road. I think it's commendable that we were able to transfer $500,000 in a grant for parking. But what are we doing with it? All you have to do is talk to the people that live there. We know we need safe parking on this trail. We need it on North Watts. We need it on Old Victoria Road. We need it on Saltair Road. It's how we're going about it, and it comes back to my very first point. We've got some money, it's for parking. What do we want to do with it? I'm sure we can come up with some solutions to make parking safe, to make our communities more enjoyable. And the ambulance part, I know the folks in that area and actually all over Saltair have been looking for a crosswalk in that area that's safe where people can go across the street. And I'm pretty sure that accident could have been preventable if those things were done in advance and taken seriously. Thank you.
Well, I want to say well done for a lot of questions that you had no knowledge of. We've come to that point in our evening where I'm going to ask both of our candidates to offer closing comments. And I do apologize to all of you if your question didn't get pulled. But thank you for being here. Would you give our candidates, both of them, a round of applause for their thoughtful response? And in reverse order, as we agreed, Jesse, I will call upon you to offer your closing comments, and then Lynne.
I actually didn't write closing comments. I thought I was going to have enough time in between questions, and so now I'm up here without any notes. But I do just want to come back to a few key messages that I've talked about. You know, first of all, again, thank you all for coming out here today. Whether you agree with me or don't, or you're undecided, I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come and be in this building together. It's great to see faces again after, you know, a couple long years with COVID. I'm running because I just see things differently. I think that we need to have more conversation with our community leaders. I think we need to support those people. They're already on the ground doing the hard work, and they're doing it for free. These are the people that I want to rely on if I am to become your director. I want to support the way that you want. Let me say that again. I want to empower everybody in this room and our community at large. I want to empower you to live the type of life you want to live. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a conduit to the CVRD to help you guys, live the life you want to live. I also want to tackle some really big challenges that I don't think needed to come to pass. Stormwater management. This is a huge issue for folks in Saltair. It's funny, I was over on Thetis, they have the reverse problem. We got too much water, they don't have enough. So that's something that I really want to work on. Bylaw 4427, this can't go forward in the way that it is. I also want to strengthen our relationships with our other areas. Last week, I was on Thetis Island talking with community members there. I think there's a lot of things that we can do to work with them. But more importantly, the folks on Penelakut. There's some serious challenges on Penelakut, and the CVRD can play a big role. That's definitely something that I think needs to be strengthened, and I think together we can work on that. I want to support our community center, our volunteers. I want to support the residents of this community. I just think there's a better way forward. We can all get in a room, disagree. I'm not going to wave a magic wand and solve all your problems, but we can talk about them and we can compromise, respect each other, and find a way forward. I believe Saltair is for everybody. I think it's for the artists, the entrepreneurs. I think it's for our children, our retirees, our families. I think it's for baseball players, tennis players. I think it's for pickleball players. I think it's for everybody. Thank you.
Lynn.
I stand before you and thank you for coming tonight. For those that were unable to come this evening, I thank you also for being part of an amazing community. Saltair is the kind of community where we know our neighbors, we walk down the street, we have a conversation. We need to build on that. We need to have more discussions, and some of the discussions are definitely deep and complicated. We will have to make decisions in the future that we may not be comfortable with, but they're decisions that will be made as a community. In wrapping up, I think that you have heard all my accomplishments over the last 4 years during a pandemic. This election is about the future. Open communication, community engagement, transparency, fiscal accountability, prudent spending, planning, assessments, and analyzing. Making sure that as we analyze, we know the actual facts and figures. I will be listening to all the residents of Saltair and taking their decisions to the CVRD. Those are your voices through the one seat that we have at the table. As a community, we will work and walk together. Continuing to work with residents of Saltair Gulf Islands will help build engaged and empowered citizens in our community. I believe a community working together cooperatively is the most powerful force there is for positive change. I am committed to moving forward with community consensus and community-endorsed taxation. Let's hit the road running at the beginning of the next term. Continuity, knowledge, and experience. I bring those to the table, and I'm proud to have lived in Saltair for 31 years and be your neighbors. Thank you. And I would also like to thank the SCRA for taking the time to put together this platform and format for all of us to sit together. Thank you.
That brings our formal evening to a close. There's opportunity for you to meet with both the candidates individually following our closing. If there are a couple of volunteers who would help with chairs, that would be wonderful. I want you to give yourselves a hand for your participation this evening. And thank you once again to both of our candidates. Thank you.